Hey everybody, I hope that you all are doing okay and that your loved ones and you are continuing to stay safe and healthy amidst everything we have going on. So I wanted to just quickly reiterate how deadlines right now are intended to provide structure for the class, but they're incredibly flexible. So if you haven't yet turned in, the second critical analysis essay, don't worry about it. You can still turn it in. I just want to emphasize that life feels like one big set of extenuating circumstances right now. So everybody is experiencing this pandemic in different ways with different, sets of impacts. So know that deadlines are not intended to essentially add to your pile of stress right now. I just want to be able to help you all get to the finish line of this semester and not feel so overwhelmed by the different due dates that you have. So if you need to turn in something late, you need to turn in something late. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah, know that due dates are so secondary at this point to your physical, emotional, and mental health. Um, just keep that in mind. So, yeah, this week we're talking a little bit about labor and thinking about how different forms of labor take shape in a digital era. So, first, we're thinking about this through the lens of that piece that is on Blackboard. So, it's in the syllabus listed as the labor of social media production. And in that piece, Brooke Aaron Duffy explores how different Instagrammers and bloggers, the ways that they put work into building a particular brand, and she looks at people that have either gained a certain amount of influence or, are starting to emerge as like what we would understand as an influencer. So, in thinking about that, she's looking at how these folks put a lot of time and energy into curating their media persona and how often it's women that are doing this and thinking about the sort of work that goes into, like curating a fashion shoot on Instagram if you have a fashion blog, or, spending all of this time and energy, responding to different comments or, direct messages that you're getting about, your particular work and, whatever you're doing. So, she pulls from this internet scholar named Nancy Baim to term this idea of relational labor. So, relational labor would refer to any kind of work in digital space that seems like it is kind of muddying the distinctions between work and leisure in the sense that it is working to impact people's feelings and attitudes about someone's brand. So, thinking about how relational labor would take shape as, like, say somebody that is trying to make a name for themselves in art, and Nancy Baim specifically looks at budding musicians that are doing this kind of work where they're spending a whole lot of time responding to these comments that they get on their page. They're spending a whole lot of time making sure that they're staying accessible to people that are following them, and doing that by basically continuously staying in touch and continuously staying connected to people that are interacting with them in digital space. So this notion of putting a lot of time and energy into the work that you're doing to maintain those relationships, it's not necessarily something that's new. We can understand this idea of emotional labor, and the ways that we conceptualize it extending beyond to just families and households, like thinking about how do we understand the work that moms may be putting into making sure that kids feel nurtured, making sure that they're putting all of this time and energy into making their children feel heard, and thinking about all of the forms of labor that can go into just maintaining a household that are, in a lot of senses, relational, but they're not necessarily compensated activities. So, thinking about how those concepts of labor also connect to contemporary forms of labor that we would understand as gig labor. So another form of labor, in addition to relational labor in digital space, could also be understood as the ways that we see sort of freelance or contract work really taking priority in a digital era. So thinking about how people that are driving for Lyft, people that drive for Uber, hosting on Airbnb, all of those things would be considered gig labor, and gig labor would essentially be defined as any kind of temporary freelance contract work that doesn't necessarily offer full-time benefits. That's not offering the same level of stability as a full-time benefits-driven gig. So thinking about not only Uber and Lyft and Airbnb and things like that functioning as gig labor, but also thinking about a lot of service industry work. So service industry work ranging from people working in restaurants to people that are massage therapists, people that work in wax centers, all of these particular jobs that we now see as being truly impacted by the COVID situation. So, in the discussion this week, I do want to get into a little bit of a conversation about one, how we see different forms of relational labor taking shape, and that can be in both digital space and also outside of the digital realm. And also thinking about how you see gig work being impacted by the COVID situation at this point. So, we'll talk a little bit more about that in our Google Classroom discussion, and I look forward to hearing what you all have to say. All right, stay well.